I'm very well. How did you fare?
It was it was it was heavy. I think it's one of those things that when you look at the impact of it, you don't even know how to feel in the first instance. I didn't really have much damage myself, but as with other persons, even though I don't come out saying it because you realize everybody is, saying on social media who they can't hear from, who they can't reach. I do have family members that I haven't heard from yet, but I suspect they're okay. I'm hopeful, as other persons are, because the roads, George, in many spaces, going back to Hanover, Westmoreland, of course, we've heard a lot about St. Elizabeth as well, but Hanover, Trelawney, those areas, Manchester as well, there are some roads to some communities that aren't roads anymore. And that in and of itself causes a lot of problems, which is why the helicopters are being brought in to help with that relief effort. But when you see what has happened in the West, you 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 don't know how to feel for the next couple of months or even next year, and because relief efforts can help a lot, yes, but that impacts Jamaica in so many ways, George. When you think about our economy, when you think about the livelihoods that were in the West, when you think about tourism, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, listeners, I see somebody in the chat saying that, boy, George, used to being bubbly and energetic, and I don't see that this morning. I mean, who could be bubbly and energetic at this time? You listen to the newscast I just read, and the things that people are grappling with, and the state of play. I mean, you'd be, it would be totally out of step to come here laughing and jollificating as usual, because these are not normal times. And no, not saying that we should, subsume ourselves in misery. But fact of the matter is, this is a time like no other. COVID was a time like no other. This disaster is the worst in my lifetime by far. And even people who could be my grandmother are saying that they've never seen anything like this. And I've had just a little taste of it, because I've seen just one parish, just St. Elizabeth. And Trelawney and Westmoreland have their own tales of woe. And that's what I'm talking about this morning, because it's almost as if I saw a gentleman in the market on Saturday morning, and he said to me that, boy, I hope you don't fall victim to this practice of just making it seem as if only St. Elizabeth is damaged. And that's a very strong narrative among many people, saying that the authorities are making it seem as if St. Elizabeth is the only place that was devastated by Hurricane Melissa. And I said to myself, boy, whoa, look at how things are, because what is true is that the authorities have communicated clearly about what they know about the disaster and the extent of the damage from the places that they can have access, that they can get access, that they can speak to people on the ground and find out what is happening. And they've never, I don't think, made it seem at any of their press conferences or in any interview, any of the officials, as if it's only one part of Jamaica that has been damaged. The media has only been able to get as far as St. Elizabeth in the immediate, was only able to get as far as St. Elizabeth in the immediate aftermath of Melissa. So the media reported about St. Elizabeth. So it's not as if the communication from the authorities was only about St. Elizabeth. It's us and where we could get access to, and what we saw and what we reported. And then St. Elizabeth became this big thing. Now, you heard the MP for South Carolina this morning saying she lost her house. Yeah, Melissa torpedoed the home of Marisa Dalrymple Philibert. You've heard about what's happening in Trelawney. You heard the mayor of Montego Bay, the chairman of the St. James Municipal Corporation, Richard Vernon, say here, I think it was on Wednesday, that last week Wednesday, that he was unable to give account as to the extent of the damage in the parish because he could not get through to shelter managers. Communication was cut off. So there were so many disruptions in the country. And today is 6 days after Melissa. And to be frank, at this time last week, Tuesday, Melissa wasn't wreaking havoc yet. A couple of hours more and New Hope and places southwestern Jamaica were feeling it. But it's not yet even a week after. And so we need to judge what has been happening in the days since Melissa. How has the response effort been? The international community has responded admirably. Jamaicans at home and abroad, I'm so proud of so many of you because your response has been so swift. Neighbor's keeper, brother's keeper, the spirit of neighborliness that I called for this week is in strong display. Support from our foreign partners has been tremendous and we have rallied. Opposition has rallied, government has rallied, and the people are coming together. Make no mistake, the road ahead is going to be hard. And we're speaking this morning during the front page with the finance minister because some hard questions have to be asked. Yes, we thank the authorities, those officials who had the foresight to get the kind of insurance that we have in place to get that when it was secured. Make no mistake, that's only a small part of what will be needed in terms of resources to get us back to where we were. And we know, without even being trained in these things, that the scale of damage in places like Black River and in parts of Trelawney and in parts of Westmoreland, it's going to need a rebuild, not repair. So a lot of resources are going to be needed. So the question, what's going to happen in the next 3 months? Yeah, what will Christmas be like in terms of the availability of food items? We know many items won't be available because many crops won't come back till they say at least until February next year. What's going to happen to unemployment between now and December 31? What's going to happen to crime, violent crime? Will that have will Melissa have an effect on crime to cause it to go up as not just people who are desperate committing crimes, but people who want to exploit the situation to commit serious crime? That's a real possibility. You're talking about hotels that have been damaged, hotels which have to close down. The food supply chain has been cut. Yeah. So no more farms to supply the agricultural produce. And of course, the hotels couldn't even use the agricultural produce because I'm imagining that there's a downturn in bookings now given the state of infrastructure in or around the hotel environs and at the hotels themselves. What will happen to those workers? They'll have to be sent home. In the US, they call it furlough, where you don't have any more work to give the people, so you have to send them home until they get work. That's what's going to happen to hotel workers. What will be the impact of that? And to raise these issues about the impact on employment, the impact on crime, the impact on revenue raising. Those questions raised are not intended to provoke. It is just to get the conversation going so we can have an understanding of how the government intends to tackle multiple problems all at the same time and give us a sense of direction as to where we are going and how the resources to attend to these problems will be marshaled in the immediate term, in the medium term, and over the long term. Fact of the matter is, Kingston, of course, was spared. Kingston is the primary consumer of what is produced in the country. A place like St. Elizabeth, and some people don't like here St. Elizabeth, but St. Elizabeth it shall be. St. Elizabeth, according to 2017 numbers, accounts for 22% of all of the domestic food produced in Jamaica. One parish, 22%. There are well over 35,000 farmers and fishers registered in St. Elizabeth. You notice I said registered. There are more that are unregistered. So when you have a severe disruption in all of that, farmers can't farm, fishers can't fish, they have no boats, boats mash up, engine, people are still walking around looking for boat engines, yeah? And when you have that disaffection, it's going to have a serious drag on the economy, and there are going to have to be hard questions asked about how it is that we navigate that disruption, the impact on GDP, the impact on the country's revenue generating potential. These are things that us as media have to tackle now, even as people still struggle to get water, to get food. A friend of mine in government told me of seeing a child with a sign, a makeshift sign in Western Jamaica, asking for help, asking for water. So there are basic needs that will need to be satisfied right now. And then there are significant things that need to be discussed, like these important issues about revenue generation and the serious knock-on effects of Hurricane Melissa, and that we have a duty to to put on the table so that you can understand, so that you can walk together with the authorities as they embark on this critical period of repair and recovery in Jamaica's history. The issue of aid and the aid that is flooding in, and the non-partisan delivery of aid, and the delivery of aid to the places that need it most. In every country, post a disaster, there's always a portion of aid that is wasted. There's always aid that goes to people who don't need the aid. We have to learn those lessons. We have to have learned them already. And as we apply the solution to the problems that we are facing, have to be more precise, have to ensure that every dollar sent by a Jamaican overseas or given to us by one of our partners internationally goes directly to the places that need them. We have to ensure that the local individuals coordinating it, and there are so many friend groups who have come up, and I see so many people heading to Western Jamaica. The information minister says that that's a problem because so many people are blocking up the roads, and she's not saying that those who are bringing aid in their own little way are causing the problem. She's talking about those who are on a day trip to take pictures just to see firsthand for themselves the problem. They are the ones causing the problem. But so many people have rallied and are putting so much in. Will it go to those who need it? That's an important question. The ODPEM is coordinating one thing. There's another committee coordinating something else. The delivery of the aid, the receipt of the aid, all of those things have to be seamless so that in very short order, people can have the basic necessities and start worrying about how they're going to put their lives back together. I mean, let me say Holness salt, Holness had COVID, which no Jamaican Prime Minister had to deal with anything like that in their lifetime. Holness get Melissa. Well, he got burial last year. Yeah? Him get Melissa now. But it's a time for the country to show its resilience. And it's not easy. This thing isn't. And there are going to be people in the coming days who are going to say, I don't have any relief. I've not seen any aid. And I hope that that conversation is not one that can carry legitimately, because the authorities would have worked to get the aid out, open up the roads, open up the pathways so the trucks and the tankers can go down. You have a whole army, literally, of people working to get to the people who need aid most. Look, I took a drive through Santa Cruz yesterday, and again, I only went there because that's as far as I could go. Santa Cruz can be renamed Mud Town. Mud like this nobody's business. Especially in front of the Jamaica National Building. I'm wondering why so much mud is in front of that building alone. There were tractors just scraping up mud from the in-town, the parking lot of the in-town supermarket, just scraping up mud, and the whole place just looked like it was just dipped in mud and then set back down. It will take a lot of rain to just wash away that, because no works organized by anybody can bring the water that is needed to clean up the place, just wash off the mud off the place. And that wasn't as badly affected as many other places are. So it's a tremendous road ahead. There are many tough questions which will have to be asked. People's feet will have to be held to the fire. And it's not holding to the fire to show up anybody or to blame anybody. It's just to get on the table now the approach that is going to be taken, and how the multiplicity of problems that we have now, how all of those will have to be dealt with, even as we try to give babies on the breast milk, how we try to give toddlers water, how we try to get schools running, how we try to get internet so those who can't go into a school classroom can do teaching and learning by long distance, all of those things. It's an unprecedented time, but we are the best people in the world, aren't we? And we can do it.